Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I've created a script called Azure OpenAI.py. Again, all of this will be publicly available in my repository, so no need to memorize or follow with me here. But what I've done is I've just configured the Azure OpenAI API. And there's two tasks I want to achieve here. So I'll need to set two different prompts. This is all just about configuring the OpenAI API. So the first prompt is similar to what I showed you in the playground. So the first thing I want to be able to do is I want to be able to, I'll zoom in a little bit. The first thing I want to be able to do is I want to be able to classify emails into a category, right? So I understand which emails I can deal with first. The second thing I want to do is generate a prompt. And this prompt is even simpler. I just say, create a response to the following email, only respond to emails that are directed to Nikhil. And then I used to use these curly brackets so that I can put a placeholder in for when I need to insert an email into here. And I've just defined two functions for classifying an email and also generating a response. You can see here the engine I'm using is DaVinci, which is synonymous with my deployment in Azure. And all I'm doing is allowing for one argument to pass through this parameter, which is an email body. So once I pass an email body through this function, I'm just formatting the classification prompt with this email body, which will place the email here. And the same thing will happen for generate response. So I'll pass an email body through this, I'll format this, and hopefully it should generate a response. Now, if I was to test this, I'd specify, let's say, an email body of, hi, I'm looking to license your product. Can you help me out? If I was to run this, you'd be able to see in the terminal that is classified this as a sales opportunity. And it's also generated a response from me, which is, hi, thank you for your interest in licensing the product. We'd be happy to help you out. Please let us know what product you're interested in licensing. Right, it looks like a pretty good response. The response may need some work, but it's a pretty good start. The other script I've configured as well is a Python script that interacts with the Graph API. And I have some more details on my repo about how you can configure this. Just the main thing you'll need to do is you'll need to register a new application on Azure Active Directory. You need to specify the application ID. I thought you needed to do directory ID and client secret too, but it turns out that's not the case. And then you need to specify authority URL, base URL, and then also the scopes, which are effectively permissions. And I want to be able to, if I'm going to be reading an individual's inbox, I want to be able to read and write, and also I put read basic there, which is another permission scope. But I won't go through all of these functions in details because I just want to show you a high-level overview of what is possible here. But in effect, we have a function here which can generate an access token from the Graph API. And then we have a bunch of functions here, which let's just minimize these first. Yeah, then we have a bunch of functions here which do certain things with the Graph API. So we have all mails, which just looks at the base URL, which is this graph base URL, and it specifies how many messages or how many emails I would like to receive. So I just simply have two arguments. I have to pass in an access token, number of mails, and I'll be able to get a certain number of emails from my inbox. I've even created a function to get only the focused emails. And the way I do that is by modifying this string to filter for focused emails. And the way you do that is by filtering via inference classification. And again, this is exactly how you do it. Again, all of the code will be available on the GitHub repo, so no need to memorize any of this. And then you would simply call another get endpoint. So, and then I've specified some other functions, such as if you recall, the body of an email from Graph API is in HTML form. So I've created a bunch of other functions for getting the body of the email, which is the raw HTML. Also getting the text from the HTML document. And this is a little bit more about how do we pass using regex the HTML script or the content so we can extract the raw text. And then this function is about the next function is about passing the email. So we just retain only relevant information from the email. So we want to get, maybe we want to get information about the ID, the subject, the received date, the from to inference classification. That's pretty important. And also the body. I think that's all we need for now. We can always add in things later. And then I've also wanted to structure a prompt in a certain way. So when I append, if you look at this script here, when I place an email here, I want to place it in a nice format so that OpenAI can and properly read this. And this is the whole point of this function, structuring the prompt. So I want to be able to have to explicitly say, this is the subject of the email, this is from, this is to, date, content. That's pretty much it, and that's pretty much all we need for now. So you can go ahead, use these functions, no need to build them yourself. If you're familiar with Python, it'll be pretty easy to get going. The only thing you will likely need is an application ID, but you can use my own application ID. I already have an app registration in Azure AD, which is assigned to this. But if we go ahead into the main function, which is putting it all together. So a couple of things I do here. First, I import all of the function I just built from the Graph API script. And that includes functions to get emails and pass those emails. I also import the functions from Azure OpenAI, which is really only two. We only need to be able to classify and generate responses. Now, if we generate it, what I've done here is I've just generated a Streamlit application, which is a easy to use application interface that could be built in Python. It's just a way to demonstrate the output of certain applications. So very lightweight, very easy to use. Not much you can do with it, but it's good as a quick demo. So what I'm doing is I'm just initiating a Streamlit application here, assigning a button to sign in with the Microsoft Graph API. And this is when it actually generates an access token based on my application ID and scopes, which are specified in this script here, based on my application ID and scopes. So hopefully, once that is done, and it successfully generated the access token. In fact, I will write this text here on the Streamlit application. So say write successfully signed into the Microsoft Graph API. Then what I want to do is I want to get a bunch of emails. Now, I've only specified getting the last 10 emails for now, just so I can demonstrate to you how this works. And then what I'd want to do is for every email in the value object, which is an array of emails, I'd want to pass the email first. I'd want to get the email body. And this is where I can pass this email body into the classification and generation functions. And then I'd simply want to display what the Azure OpenAI thought was the classification of that email and the response. It's as simple as that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run this. So I will hit Streamlit, run main.py. Okay, so it's just deploying to my local host. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to hit sign into Microsoft Graph API and we will see what happens. Hopefully it should start magically pulling in my own emails and start classifying and generating responses. So if I hit that, successfully signed into the Microsoft Graph API. There we go, it starts bringing in emails. So we've got one email here. So it's classified this as other. This looks like a marketing email for me. Stories for Nikhil Sehgal, become a member. Yeah, this looks like a general marketing email. We've got the classification here as other, which I would say is correct. And it's actually generated a response. I mean, we should probably tell the model that it doesn't need to generate responses to other emails, but it's actually generated a response saying, "Hi, Sunil, thanks for sharing these articles with me. I'm looking for new ways to grow my email list and engage my audience." So yeah, it's pretty funny. But if we look at another email, again, this looks like another newsletter email to me, a controversial memo by Sequoia Capital, which is a large VC fund. To see how this is classified this. Well, see, this is interesting. It's classified this as an investment opportunity. And so whilst this is a direct investment opportunity, this is talking about pre-seed equity investment. So it is along the right line, but of course there is some improvements to be made. And it has actually generated response as well. We have a look at another one. Hey, Nico, I know you're super busy. So this looks like another marketing email that was sent to me. I know you are super busy, so floating this back to your inbox in case it slipped through. If you're interested in TopMate, so TopMate is a newsletter service. It's a sales opportunity, which is, it's not as if someone is looking to license my product. There's a sales opportunity, and then it's generated a response here. So, hi, Ankit. Thank you for reaching out to me about TopMate. I'm definitely interested in learning more about the product and how it can help me grow my personal brand. Please send me a personalized link so we can look at it. So you can imagine like a button being available on Office 365, which is, let's say, call this a generate button. So you're just going through your emails, clicking generate, generate, generate. I think some work has to be done to the response, which we'll discuss in a second. But you get the general overview that this is it's a pretty powerful tool, especially in conjunction with Microsoft Graph API, to be able to actually understand emails, classify them, and generate response, which can generally take that whole process to process emails, can generally take an individual up to 2 hours per day, just sitting there processing emails. So even saving 50% of that time generates an extra 12 days per year for any individual. So that is a quick overview of how it works. Of course, there are some limitations, so I'd encourage you to play with this, see what it does for you. But one of the things one of the other improvements I thought would be pretty useful for this type of service is definitely fine-tuning the responses. So one of the key things with OpenAI, it is just a general large language model. You definitely want to be able to fine tune this. So it would be good to actually say, okay, here are a list of all the emails I've ever been sent, and here's how I usually respond. So you would have, let's say, thousands of rows of paired emails that would be sent to you and your responses, and you could actually fine tune OpenAI to respond how you would respond, even in keeping contextual information about certain things. So let's say, for example, if you've had questions about your specific product in the past, if you fine-tune the model will be able to spit out that contextual information about your specific product. So it becomes very highly personalized when you fine-tune the model. The other thing I thought of doing was building a simple Teams app, which could maybe show you classification of your emails across a number of emails. And then also one thing that would be good to improve upon is actually implementing direct sending API. So users can send emails directly from the application. So you effectively just now have a user which is generating responses through their inbox and sending emails directly through the API. But of course, there are a lot of improvements to make. There's just the whole purpose of this was to show you a quick overview of the capabilities of Azure OpenAI into a simple business application. So I hope that was helpful. Happy to answer any question. Yeah, and again, Kasam, thank you for inviting me for this call.